welcome everyone. It's nearly time, mid-season draft, and that means that your favourite draft gurus talk about the draft. And I'm joined in this co-hosting live with the legend that is Dylan Alexander. We are looking forward to this, aren't we, Dylan? It's like an early Christmas.
This is awesome, mate. I'm super keen for this. We only, as draft people, we only get 2 bites at this. We get the mid-season draft and then we get the national draft. So we've got to make the most of these opportunities. I'm super excited. I think we've got it's the mid-season draft, of course. So it's not the absolute most, talented pool of players. It's not like the national draft in that sense, but there's still going to be some gems in there. And I think this, more than the national, you get more of those curveball picks, don't you? Like players that come from the depths of nowhere, been playing some country footy, have come back into those like state leagues like the Waffle and the Sandful and that sort of thing. So you get some interesting picks and you probably get a little bit more, at least towards the back end of the draft, you get a little bit more towards the needs of what clubs actually need rather than just that pure talent. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and we're going to have a lot of fun this week. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We've taken some creative license as well. We've anticipated some of the clubs opening list spots. You will notice that obviously the St Kilda there is rumours that they will place Patrick Dow on that. It hasn't happened officially, but they have got till tomorrow. There is also talk that other clubs such as the Doggies, who haven't officially done it yet. The Doggies have done. The Gold Coast haven't officially done it yet, but there is rumours they're about to do it in the next 24 hours. And the Pies can, if they want to, open up an extra spot. We'll talk about all that. What we're going to do today, though, is we're going to go through every team, just talk about some of the options that are there, and chat. You throw in any questions you have. There's a few of you in already. Caden's in, Chills. Joseph Hinder question from there. Mr. Joseph Hinder. Let me get my spreadsheet of death out. The Waffle Boy. There isn't any talk about Joseph Hinder. I've just checked on my notes as of yesterday. But
that one's gone straight over my head, Pommy. That has gone straight over my head. No idea.
He is having a strong waffle year, I can see. But there isn't any talk. I think he may be one of the unlucky ones. But we are going to go through here, Chills, what we think the teams will do. How long is Waterman's injury, though? Because that'll be interesting. I'm pretty sure it was before the end of the season. So we will have a look if they go 2 spots, but we will start with the club we've picked 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at what they have now, have a look at next year, because this is very important. A lot of clubs will use this pick as well if they don't have much in the draft at the end of the year. But as we can see, the Eagles need all the help they can get, Dylan. Lots of names linked to them, namely Big Tom, but what do you think they're looking for here? Is there anything specific, and chat as well, something specific they really want to nail in this draft?
So I think if you look at the West Coast Eagles, what they absolutely need is those elite midfielders, really. Those loose ball guys, the guys that are racking up 25, 30 touches a game, just use the footy, work it from inside to out, can spread a little bit and use the ball on the outside as well. I think they need that. They lack a little bit of class. Probably how they've been playing in the 2025 season is kind of avoiding having to do anything about that. They just play pretty direct. When they get an opportunity, they go long to those forwards like Allen and Waterman, but they really want someone to be able to control the tempo a little bit more and just keep them in those games. Now, unfortunately for the West Coast Eagles, that sort of play is pretty difficult to come by in a mid-season draft. You tend to get more tools, you tend to get more athletic types. You probably tend to get those more hybrid types as well, whether that's sort of hybrid running defenders, those medium forward types, some small forwards and stuff like that. So I don't feel like they can go searching for exactly what they need in this draft, but you can look forward with that 2025 hand. You're looking at picks 1 and picks 13. You've also got the Oscar Allen element to this as well. The fact that he could leave, give them a compensation pick in that top end. So they could be looking at maybe, 2 picks in that top 5 of the draft. I think that's something to consider. You're looking at the players in the top end of that 2025 draft. I'm looking at players for West Coast, such as Sam Grill, Looks like a really top-end midfielder, someone that's got pace, can find the footy, use it really well. You're looking at Josh Lindsay, another one from the Geelong Falcons, just really poised, a Scott Pendlebury type player. And then you probably got Cooper Duff-Tytler as the other one that's right up that top end that West Coast could use, because they absolutely need they need that sort of generational ruck, don't they, to sort of feed this future midfield as well. So I think they can do that in the national draft. So then it comes down to what they can find in the mid-season draft. So what are you thinking, Pommy, about mid-season and then basically everything that I've just said before that?
Well, I think you've nailed it. They're going to have a good draft hand. Like, worst case scenario, Alan Leibs, they're going to have some really good bites at the cherry, aren't they? Yep. They're going to be able to get that. So I think their mindset, for me, I can understand Tom McCarthy is the link, isn't it? It's the worst kept secret. And you kind of, they almost get a shot at the stumps, don't they, here? So this is, I can understand it, an elite user of the football, which I feel they lack. They really do lack that great user of the football. And this year they've floated so many midfielders at halfback. Why don't you get a guy that's got a great engine, started life as a midfielder, doing his job at halfback, who potentially could push up the wing? I could see that in the long term as well. The other option, though, curveball, and I think it's way too early, but you could make an argument as well from Brendan Parfitt if they opened up a second list spot, because he's ready-made and he kind of helps you straight away have that maturity, doesn't he? But I do think they'll go best available, who would be McCarthy.
I had this exact conundrum when I was looking at the West Coast Eagles, because you do look at a player like Parfitt and you go, okay, for right here, right now, yes, he's not the talent pick, but he would actually come into that midfield and actually give them something a little bit. But at the same time, when you're in a position like West Coast, when you've won very little games over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons, you've got to get talent in the door. So I think they're doing the right thing, and I think they will take Tom McCarthy. You mentioned all of the traits that he has. I think the one thing that he does give them is the fact that he can accumulate. Like, he can be involved in that tempo side of the game where they actually want to be able to control the ball, and he can be that link player. I think that's what he sort of projects at the top level. He projects as that guy that probably long-term for me is a winger more than where he's played at VFL level, which is sort of like on ball and then across half back a little bit. He flirts with being that hybrid defender, running defender, which I feel like West Coast have 1,000 of those guys. Like, they draft, Bo Allen, Jimby, all of these types. Marich, even the one that they got in the mid-season draft a couple of years ago. And then who did that? They got Hutchinson last year, who's sort of that type as well, that sort of outside type. So it is kind of another one of those. But if you can put this guy with some really high-end midfielders that you can get in the draft in the next couple of seasons, then I think it actually works perfect. And you have to take the risk on the talent as opposed to just bringing in exactly what you need in say, a Parfitt.
I feel like, when I look at West Coast list, if they could have an old player that's retired, outside of Nick Natanui, obviously, because I think Ruck is huge, but I feel like Shannon Hearn, you would love to put in this team for the maturity factor, the ball use factor. He was a huge part of their flag as well. I feel like Tom McCarthy, not saying he's as good as Shannon Hearn, but if you're playing him at a high halfback straight away, he's going to find the ball 20, 25 times and hit up your midfield and get it away from trouble. So it's as close as they can get to, I think, what they need. Even though they've got a lot of similar players, I think his ball use is one thing that gets them into trouble.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And they just, like, on a really simplistic level for West Coast, I feel like they just need more chains. They just need to have a little bit more possession in game, because they'll go through games where they get absolutely smacked from clearance. They get absolutely smashed in the disposal rate. They can't get the ball off the opposition. So they're sort of constantly chasing the opposition. McCarthy helps with that. He just gives you something. I think overall, like, he's that type of player, but he's something a little bit different. And he's probably a replacement for someone like a Hunt on that wing for me long term. I like it. And I think it's, the reports are probably accurate here. I had him, originally I had him as my in overall rankings. I had him as the second best player. I'm happy with him going number 1.
Oh, I think he's, And to be fair, Richmond have got quite a few players that People forget their depth in VFL at the minute is incredible.
Yeah.
I reckon they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think a lot of people will steal them, but I think we can lock him away. When there's smoke, there's fire. Genuinely pick one is the worst kept secret in the mid-season draft.
It was the same last year with Geordie Payne to the Kangaroos. Like, everyone kind of knew about it from a week out. There wasn't much chat about him before that, but then once a little bit of news goes around, I feel like, I don't know, clubs are even worse with the mid-season draft at actually keeping those secrets.
Well, I mean, you have got special dispensation, the Essendon, to play this guy literally overnight. But then we get to talk about everyone's favourite second team, your boys, North Melbourne. North Melbourne are in that precarious position here where they need quite a lot. Got a lot of talent, though. This is really, though, I feel like part of their succession plan here is trying to find the best available talent to try and make that Whitlock deal even better. If they can get a player that is maybe a top 20 standard next year, it really helps them balance the books a bit. But this is a fascinating pick, isn't it? Because we've done North Melbourne a lot, you and me. We seem to pick better than North Melbourne, in my humble opinion.
Always, Pommy, always. And you can't really polish the turd that they dished up last year on draft night. I mean, that was just I still can't everything's hurting me about that. It's the fact that they swapped pick 2 in the following year. It's also the fact that they traded in Caleb Daniel, who I'm not a massive fan of as well. So much going wrong there. I feel like this is a really easy choice for the Kangaroos in that you've just got to go for the high upside talent here. So you've got to go for a youngish type of player. But I feel like this is just such an obvious opportunity to go for one of the key position tools. And I think it's the waffle player in Archer May, who's the best one. 198 centimeters. He's super athletic. I remember one scout saying about him that he had the best hands that he's seen at waffle level. So he can take a big mark, use that body, use that size, and use the athleticism. And he's so good at ground level from the footage that I've seen of him. So I'm pretty big on this guy. Like, the other one that I would consider for North Melbourne would be Sam Toner. He's irking towards a midfielder type in that he's sort of like one of those hybrid medium type forwards, Sam Toner. He's the one that I see in this crop as probably the most talented overall. But given the value and what you can get, and we talked about the Whitlock deal and how that sort of affects it, and, the draft, what North are going to be able to get with those picks in the next year's draft with 20, 21, 38, they're probably going to be looking at more hybridy, smaller types. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to bring in that key position forward. We're short in that position. It's starting to look a little bit better now that we've brought in like a Darling as a stopgap. Finbar Maley looks pretty good in there as a forward as well. But there's definitely still, if you look at all the key position players, taking out the rucks and just going key position defenders, key position forwards, we're still lacking that area. So I think we've got to bring one in, and I think Archer May is our guy.
It feels like it's a no-brainer. Do you think, though, is there a part of you that just thinks West Coast totally bucked trend, right? And say, because we know that Tom's got links as well with a few of the Victorian boys that are playing at WA, and that's what being talked about. But let's just say Eagles call out and surprise everyone, and they say, let's go Selwood, right? Ooh. Similar type of player. Could you see, because I can see it, I could see North picking up Big Tom as well. I could see this being, even though I don't think they need it, I could feel them go for it.
I think they will. Yeah, if that, like in that maybe non-plausible scenario that you just created, I feel like they would go for Tom McCarthy. And I'm saying I think North should go for Archer May. I think they'll go for Sam Toner.
It's interesting because officially, like players, like some people in the chat saying it, there is a report Rasso hasn't nominated yet, but he does have till tomorrow. He could have done it now. They won't announce it till late tomorrow evening, the final list lodgement. But like, I could see Rasso being that type of player as well. I had him
Yeah.
as a question mark here.
Yes, I think Rasso is definitely in the mix as well. I sort of look at that player, like we've traded him in God, I've gone blank on his name. Who's the guy we got from Sydney?
Constante.
Constante, yeah. That sort of player, that very, very short, very small guy, pretty deep, sort of a small forward, very skillful. And usually when they get an opportunity in front of goal, they take it. But I feel like that player's a little bit going out of the game, and you don't want to be carrying too many of those types. And I see them two as a little bit too similar for me. I feel like North either need sort of another hybridy type on the smaller end, more suited to ground ball. Like we've got a lot of those hybrids in the taller end, like your Zerhas, your Curtis, those sort of types. But we need a few more ground ball players down there, but ones that can sort of like affect aerially as well. And Tony can do that. The other type that we would potentially need is more that sort of high half forward. At the moment, players sort of like Tom Powell, Luke Parker are sort of playing that role. Even Colby McKercher a little bit playing that sort of high half forward role. Someone that can just almost like your Dylan Moore, the guy that just gets up and down the ground, has speed, has endurance, but then also has the goal sense when he does find himself a little bit deeper. I feel like we need that player. There's a guy at Werribee, Zach Banch, that sort of plays that role a little bit. I'm just not sure if he has the upper end sort of attributes to be able to make it at the AFL level. And then you look at the other one that's probably in that same mold, that's a little bit more of a higher forward. You look at Ewan McKinley from the SANFL. I think North could even take I think it gets really open here, the mid-season draft at this point, and it could kind of go whichever way North are sort of feeling, whether they're going for that sort of smaller forward or whether they're going for the key position player is really going to kind of turn things.
You know a name that's come late, and I identified it, and it's gone dead on him, but Caleb Lewis, who was heavily linked at the start about 4 rounds ago, then everyone's just gone quiet on him. But since he's shifted forward, I think he might be, if I was North's list manager, his ability to be quite impressive down the back, redeveloped as a forward, great goal kicking action, and he's that nice age as well. I feel like this could be one as well where it covers 2 holes and he's got high upside. I feel it's surprising Caleb's not getting enough love for me.
I actually agree with you. I feel like he's definitely a dark horse. I feel he's had a lot of love from Gold Coast, and I feel like that's just me sort of, people have just then put those two together and gone, okay, the other clubs aren't going to be looking at him. But he played in that Young Gun series, and in both games, albeit he was a little bit older than the guys that he's up against, so he has a sort of physical dominance there. And that made it kind of hard to judge him, I suppose, overall. But he was clunking the ball inside 50. And we do, as you said, we know how much AFL clubs love those guys that can play tall in different parts of the ground. Like, I think coaches are sort of working with that even more than they have in the past. You look at Sicily and Weddle and these types of players, they're just shifting them constantly between the forward arc and the defensive arc. So he's one that can do that, clunks the ball really nicely. But yeah, he's in that same mold where he's not going to come in, if he does say slide to one of these teams like an Essendon or something as well, he's not going to necessarily come in and have an impact straight away. As you said, like he's more of a sort of long-term project, I feel.
You know, if they do open up their second pick, which there's been heavy talk that they're going to, could you see this being a senior player? Like a senior player, because Darcy Tucker, he's out, Bergman's out. Could you see someone like a Nathan Kruger? Like, I know that sounds weird, but like a stopgap now on a short-term deal, someone that can just hold an end up and then maybe go a bit exciting with their pick too.
I bloody hope not, Pommy. I really, really hope not. I hope we don't take a Kruger or someone like that. I feel, again, we'd be like, particularly if it's like a key position player, like it's again just like bandaging over a problem that we don't have a long-term solution to. We've sort of already done it with Darling. Yeah, I wouldn't be up for that at all. But North never cease to amaze me with some of the decisions that they make. So, I mean, we took Teakle last year. It's not out of this world for sure. I would I reckon we will take 2 picks because every time we get an opportunity to bring talent in, we generally do it. I see North going for a May, a Toner, if like a McCarthy fell through, definitely. And then even Caleb Lewis, like I sort of see us in that area. particularly, but who knows? We'll probably end up taking Brandon Parfitt.
Yeah, it's fascinating because, like I always say this about North, you've still got the best player never to be seen. And it might be my best draft call that I said Braden George was the best small forward potentially of a generation. And because he's always injured, we're never going to be able to prove that right or wrong. So it looks a really good call.
He's actually just been playing VFL lately and doing really, really well. I think he picked three or four at the weekend.
Well, that's why I suggested Rasso, because I feel like when I love Paul Curtis, he's one of my favourites. I loved him in the draft. Carlton went Motlop over Curtis, and I've never forgiven the club. But I just thought Rasso, I feel like you've tried to convert everyone into a midfielder, into a halfback or a half forward. I really like the fact that Rasso has that kind of Caleb Daniel ability that I could see him playing elsewhere in 2-3 years' time.
That's not something that I've considered with Rasso. He definitely, like, the thing that I like about him is he can really, like, turn on a dime. You know what I mean? Like, he can open up the field that way. If he does get up a little bit and picks up the ball high, he can make players look a little bit stupid, sell a hot dog and that sort of thing. It's interesting. Like, I haven't probably assessed his, again, I don't watch a ton of VFL football. I'm more in the Coates League and that sort of thing. So I haven't sort of monitored his kicking to that level, which would be probably the issue with playing halfback, right? Like, he needs to be able to hit targets, open up the ground, that sort of thing. But I like him. I think he's a good player. And I definitely think I probably see him more in that, like, after the first round of picks go. I probably don't see him as going in that sort of top echelon, maybe after that top 7 when clubs come in for a second pick. So maybe he'd be one we'd be looking at with that second pick. I feel like he will sort of slide to that area though.
Yeah, I agree. I think with him nominating late means one of two things. Should he nominate? It either means that there is an absolute Monty he's going to be taken, or the interest is cooled. But I can see Rasso, bold call. I feel Rasso in the right system could be like a Timu type ranking type player. Play that 5th rotation in the midfield, incredibly inconsistent. But I think with the right tutelage and the right love, he has all them X factor talents that if you build the list around him, you can hide his deficiencies. And that 5 minutes is because he does it in the VFL quite a bit. He has 5 minutes and you're salivating, but then the next 75 minutes, you're like, what's all the hype about?
For sure. And that's partly the position too, right? I mean, you do get like that. The forward line can be an area where you're starved. I watched him in that game against the Academy where the VFL went up against the Academy, and he was sort of like that in that game, really. It was a couple of like big moments of magic, and then he sort of quietens down a little bit. So I think that's probably the thing for him to be able to affect the game more. He probably needs to build up that running ability to go on ball a little bit and make himself a little bit more versatile. Because I feel like, again, those sorts of players, if that's your only way to impact the game, to be able to go deep, then you are going to get starved a lot, and you're not going to, I feel like ultimately you're not going to make it. But I do think he has some traits. I reckon the Rankin shout, do I agree with the Rankin shout? That's a big shout. I said
the Timu. I said Timo, so it's Timu. Not so Timu version. So it's not Audi. It's worse than Audi. It's like real budget, but that type of player that you can spurt through the midfield in 2-3 years' time.
Yeah,
who's going to be that energetic engine of pace.
For sure. I think the thing that Rankin would have over him is just that, like, a little bit that aerial ability as well. I think that Rassu's probably not going to ever have at that height. I think like Rankin's 185, so he's got a bit more there. They've got like the agility factor though, the way that he can move and sort of like open things up. I think that's definitely there.
I feel North have got a load of mid-size mids. Do you know what I mean? You've got that awkward size mid. You haven't got giant ones or midget ones. They're just like kind of medium. So I feel like a diminutive one would be a nice little POD.
Yeah. I feel like that is a little bit though what Constantine is, what we've sort of bought in. I think the problem for North is we try to convert midfielders into those forward positions, and then they don't have that clutchness around goal. You know what I mean? So like they're a little bit lost in the forward line, and all of a sudden like the spaces close up on them a little bit. There's not as much room to operate. and they get a little bit sort of starstruck when they get forward of the ball. I think that's the issue with not playing someone that has that foundation in their game inside forward 50. But we'll see, Pommy. We'll see what happens.
I'm looking forward to you picking up an LDU clone, like you always do.
It's always depressing, so I'm sure it will be again.
Well, I think this is the hardest one to pick. Port. Yeah. And Port, as always, I love this myth about Port, but everyone always just assumes they'll only pick up Sandful talent, and they're scared of every other state. But a few names have been linked with them. But when I look at Port, and they are the worst side at scoring from defensive half, it screams ball-using halfback, and they have been linked with just about every position that isn't that. But I look at this, and I just think if I'm Port, I'm trying to find that nice, sexy halfback.
I guess the question here is, where do you see long-term Connor Rozee? Because I feel like he's sort of gone back and played that sexy halfback role in the absence of Dan Houston. They've got a Kane Farrell. He's not that like upper echelon distributor. And then what have they got? Burton, who's sort of like, you're just going down the levels here right now. So Rozee here, Farrell, Burton. You probably do have the wild card in like a Jace Burgoyne. I feel like his sort of projection could be something similar to like a Nasiah Wanganeen Miller. So potentially they do have that player on their list. I feel like the area that they've, for me anyway, the area where they've like recruited and probably gone big, but they don't really have that many star factor players, is the small forwards. So they've gone, there was that draft where they went like Charlson, they went Anastopoulos, these types of players who they got lots of small forwards in, but they aren't necessarily at that level. And then they went back to the draft last year with Joe Berry, who's still got a lot of time. Obviously, I think he's an absolute star. They've got Willie Rioli, who's sort of aging, but he's probably their one wood as a small forward. I feel like they could go for something in that space. The other one that I look at, though, positionally, and this is if we're not looking at the halfbacks like you mentioned, but the rucks, they've got rucks on their list, but again, are any of them actually going to go to that next level? They've got Jordan Sweet. Not sure if he's like absolutely at that top echelon in the rucks. And then they've got Soldo as well, right? Who is kind of already failed at this point. They've got Vicentini as another one who's sort of more of a forward ruck. So the one I kind of like for them here is a little bit of a smoky is Zach Harding. What do you think?
I don't mind it. You know the name I keep looking at is Selwood.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's what, like, I agree with you. I just think Connor Rozee is wasted at halfback. I feel like that is a stopgap because you do want him in and around the ball and at half forward. I feel like that is where his long-term future is. I think if you could find a way to spurt him, and maybe he becomes like a Lockie Whitfield, where he just is the hot zone everywhere.
He's just a carrier.
That's what I think Whitfield's great strength is. You can play him just about anywhere on the paddock now. He's played everywhere.
Well, the thing is, Whitfield's just constantly testing you. He's just constantly like running and testing you. And I think that's like to have that sort of endurance level is so important. I feel like Rozee, though, could even use the ball a little bit better. Sorry, go on, Pommy.
Oh, no, I agree. And I just worry when I look like, there's links that Bergman's going to leave at the end of the year as well. Yeah. I just feel like if I was Port, I'd want to go try and get ahead because the picks next year aren't great. Even if you look at the players that will leave, it's not like you're going to bring you in a Monty. And then I look at the draft next year and I feel like that's not the kind of the draft I'm looking for a first teamer with them picks. If I'm going in with 22, which is probably going to be 28 by matches and things, I'm definitely not bringing that guy in to play round one. So have a crack at the stumps now. Selwood, mature age player, excellent user of the football. He's nothing like Dan Houston, but he's as good as you're going to get in the MSD.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I like it. I like the fact that he would also give them another avenue to shield that defense a little bit as well. Like he does intercept. So he's a bit of an aerial player because I feel like that's an area this season that they've been pretty poor at as well, actually just winning the ball back. They've kind of got a Lear. They need a few more bastards down there too, right, in that defense. Like I feel like it's just a little bit one-paced, a little bit weak at times. So they do need that. I like that. As far as Connor Rozee, I sort of agree with you in the sense that it's a stopgap. I probably just feel like when you look at their overall talent, you don't want to sort of like overcompensate too much in one area. I feel like when they've got Butters, they've got Horne-Francis and Rozee, it's a little bit of a like diminishing returns, I suppose, as far as what can you actually get out of that midfield when all of your stars are just there around the ball. You're sort of better off in some ways spreading them around the field a little bit more. And then you're getting another A grade to half back. If you can push someone towards the forward line a little bit like a Jason Horne-Francis, and you've got lots of players that can play midfield still. Like they've got Willem Drew, they've got Ollie Wines, Boak's still there. Obviously not for too much longer, but it's hard to hide those players like Wines and Boak anywhere else other than the midfield. Even Drew's probably the same. So to have that flexibility to play Connor Rozee does give them something. I like it though. I like I never actually thought about putting Selwood to the power. So I think it works as far as a stopgap for now, at the very least.
And I love this from Mega Kaza. Obviously, we don't know what Butters is doing. Like, I hope Butters stays because I think he looks like a Port player. But I mean, Carlton are already trying to complete Hawthorn's rebuild by our form at the minute by giving him an even better pick. But be an interesting one. Do you think they might have a mind on that? A mind on with them picks? If Butters leaves, you'll get a good pick back, obviously. But having a mind of Rozee maybe has to go back into the midfield should Butters leave.
That's a good point. Again, something that I didn't actually consider. I'm just looking at their picks now, like only having 22, 40, and 58. Was that because of I'm just trying to remember back. That was because they traded on draft night, right? They actually traded away a pick to get in front to get Berry. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if you remember, they had that massive multi-pick swap prior to that when they sold Houston and they got two other teams just to pay for them. As we always see with multi-trades, one person picks up the slack.
And they got Lukosius and Ratkins, right?
Yeah.
As part of the deal.
They downgraded their half-back line to improve their depth, effectively.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not looking ideal, is it?
Yeah, because you see, I've seen Atkins has been playing down back and stuff. It's just one of them things where I feel like that's got to be an aggressive position. And I don't look at their back line and think exciting. And with it being ranked last for defensive half scores, that is a concern when every good team is living off halfback.
100%. And you absolutely can't. Like Rory Atkins cannot be a distributor for you at halfback, and he doesn't defend. So I don't really know what they were doing actually picking him up there. Like he just screams VFL standard player. He's someone that'll rack up the ball in the VFL, but I just don't feel like he's got it at that next level. The Butters thing is an interesting conversation because if he does go, like you said, that sort of brings Connor Rozee, sucks him back into the midfield, but it also gives them picks, right? And then what they want to do with those picks kind of, again, are you going to go for those kind of midfielders? Could you look at someone at the top end like a Josh Lindsay, who actually is that, high-end halfback distributor / midfielder as well? So it's going to be interesting.
I think it's a good draft for Port because we've got the South Australian tax. There's a Tasmania and a South Australian tax in drafts. And Big Dyson is crashing on draft boards rapidly, but I think a very, very good footballer. And
you're a fan, are you?
I can see them getting him for cheap.
Yeah, I definitely I sort of see him outside that top 10 at this point. I feel like he's a great player, like great physicality around the stoppages. I just feel like he's one of those players that long term, like he's going to be a little bit with the skills, with the outside stuff, like he could be a little bit difficult to hide.
I agree, but I think they'd be in a great position because you'd probably get another year out of Wines. You'd probably get Boak, I believe, might play until he's 100. So I feel like he'd have a really good team to learn off as well. If you added him to that team, and let's just say I reckon Travis will retire, but they'll probably keep him in some kind of development role. I feel like he's got a real good system to learn off.
Yeah, they'd slaughter you around the ball too, like Jason Horne-Francis, Dyson Sharp. Like they'd be absolutely smashing you around the contest. And it'd just be, for me, it'd be such a, to lose Butters, and then go for like a big-bodied midfielder that probably doesn't have that like really high-end skill rate. Like you're losing so much control in there for me. But then again, like when you look at the pick that you brought up there in Selwood, I mean that's a player that he does use the ball a little bit better, so he gives you something there.
I feel it was a safe pick. Like if I was the list manager at Port, I'd want safety.
Yeah, and it's also something that the recruiters would be thinking, liking the fact that he's playing in Western Australia. They always prefer to take players that aren't from Victoria, just like less of that go home factor. For whatever reason, the trip from Western Australia to South Australia doesn't seem as far.
It's fast. The Victorians interstate, they love coming back home. Like they must have the best mum cooking in Australia.
I know. You wouldn't hear. I swear you wouldn't hear about that anywhere else.
It's one of them. It's one of them common misconceptions that everyone always says it's WA kids, South Australian kids, but it's literally always a Victorian kid that wants to come home.
Yeah. Yeah. They even have to strategize around it. Like we can't do, particularly from the metro area.
Yeah, mate, crazy. But I mean, the next club, we are going club by club, Braden. Don't worry. Everyone that has been linked to on a spot and St Kilda, they've got a few options, but the rumours are they have the option to list Paddy Dow as reported by Cal Toomey. They haven't done it yet. If they did, they would have picked 4 before Carlton, after Port Adelaide. They are fascinating, St Kilda, because it's hard to see what they would want and how desperate they would be for it.
Yeah, that they fit this same conversation that I mentioned off the top with West Coast, right? Where they kind of desperately need quality midfielders, but in a mid-season draft, you're not going to get those quality midfielders. So you sort of have to look elsewhere. I feel like for me, it's kind of in a way when you start to get to this pick, we mentioned the players that could go in that sort of top 3. Does St Kilda just sort of wait for whatever sort of falls through and just go for that, like that next talent option? I do think they're a little bit lacking in key position forwards. If you actually look at their list, you're really only looking at Max King. You're looking at Isaac Keeler, who's a potential forward, potential defender. And then you've got Cooper Sharman. I don't really know of any other of their major key position forwards. Like Mitch Owens is a sort of key position forward, but he's more of a hybrid. So you could look at, like, the first person on my sort of list was Riley Mason, Collingwood VFL. Again, just that sort of athletic, tall, can play as that sort of second or third, gets up the ground, is a really good runner, and can sort of, the way that St Kilda want to play, where they sort of run you back to goal as well. I think he'd be really good in that system. But then you're going to have players that are slipping through the cracks there, like Sam Toner as a medium forward. They probably don't have that ground level / aerial player outside someone like a Jack Higgins. Zach Harding, I mentioned as the ruck as well, but then that probably plays into the Tom De Koning thing. If they end up getting Tom De Koning, they're not going to be chasing another ruck, but he's for me, a really top end talent in this draft. And then there's Archer May and those types, if they slip through. Selwood, you mentioned. So there's a little bit there. And I think for the Saints, it's not really about filling a position that they need and more about just going for talent.
This feels like, knowing Sauce as well as I do, being Carlton list manager.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
This screams tall guy that runs. It does scream it. I could see the guy we've already talked about, Caleb Lewis, because I have been really impressed with Caminiti going down back. I think they've actually found a position for him. And I think if you're going to train Caminiti as a backman, he's probably you probably are short a forward for depth at least. And I think the indecision of Max King, there has to be a conversation at Saints. Is he ever going to get right? Like, is he ever? So you've got to start covering that. And Lewis
100%.
probably is a good option.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like sometimes you just bring up the list and you look at those lines and you're like, well, gee, they've already got Max King, who's pretty much on a long-term injury list as it is, and then you start to kind of go through the other players that they could actually bring in. They don't have, if they had like another injury to a Sharman, who are they playing there? They already, like every time I watch them play, it feels like the key defenders or the tall intercepting defenders dominate from the opposition. They can just bounce them off half back. So they need something down there. I'm sure they're going to look to that with their 2025 hand as well. I mean, they've got pick 5, 41-63. We know what they did in 2024. Like they went for, I feel like they've gone pretty hard for like high upside players. Like they went for Tyroo, who again, you probably got to consider Tyroo in that tall forward situation as well, because he could be like 193 centimeters, pretty athletic, played a bit of footy forward. But yeah, for me, the front runners for the Saints would have to be May and Mason, definitely.
Could I throw a curveball?
Yeah.
Liam McMahon. I'll throw a curveball. We know Sauce, he loves a wind-up with Carlton. And we pretty much know Essendon are almost signed, sealed, delivered to get him at some point. The rumours are he's pretty much been promised. If they were to enter it, I would imagine Sauce would only enter this because he knows who he wants and he knows he's not gettable. So I don't think he would open it up and hope someone slides. Sauce is the type of cold, calculated guy that I will take this no matter what. Could it be he wants a proven goal kicker? It takes the pressure off Sharman. It takes the pressure off their young kids. And they've got someone who was like Caminiti for them a year or two ago, who plugged a hole while everyone got fit.
I feel like that would come down to St Kilda, like where they're at with their list and going, okay, so we've gone to Keeler, we've gone to Tyroo, these types of players. Like, do we rate them enough to just kind of go for the stopgap? I think that would be the big conversation there. I don't like it as much. I don't see McMahon as just on a talent level. I don't see him having the sort of mobility to be able to sort of compete with these other two guys. If we're comparing him to on a projection level to a Mason or a May, I just feel like he sits in that next bracket below. It looks more like the way that he moves is more like a VFL player to me. I like where you're going with it as far as ready-made. And then you have your high upside players like your Tyroos and your Keelers. They're kind of just like developing underneath him, right? And I like the Sauce factor. I mean, I wasn't reading into that much. You know Sauce. You know he does some crazy things, right? So this could well be on the cards. I don't see it, though.
One thing I'll give Sauce is if he sees a player he doesn't care about projections, he'll take him. He'll take him at pick 4 in this draft. If he thinks McMahon is a better for his list than Mason, he won't blink. He'll take McMahon and he'll let people say the guy's crazy. So it just makes me think they haven't opened it up, even though they were one of the first clubs to have Dow on that long-term, could be inactive forever.
So it makes you think that they've got somebody like really specifically in mind.
Yeah, so they're either waiting to see what everyone else is doing because they're not opening it up for wait. They're almost calculating. And that's why I just think Liam, I agree with you. I think upside, the others have probably got more upside. But I think one thing I'll give Liam is I would trust him to play 20 games over 2 years and not embarrass himself.
100%. How old is he?
He's what, 24 now? Coming up to 25?
So, yeah. So he's definitely still got, I mean, he's still at that age, somewhat of a projection pick. Like he's a similar age to say like a Sam Davidson who was taken by the Western Bulldogs in the last draft. So there's still definitely some projection. I actually thought he was a little bit older than that. I thought he was more like the 26, 27 range.
And I'll say this, he's 20 times the player that Caminiti was.
At the time, yeah.
So, and I would say he was a relative success as a late addition to your list to back up. why not do it again? Like, do it again short term. It takes all the pressure off Max King. It takes the pressure off Cooper Sharman staying fit. At least you know you don't have to throw a James Barrett, who I do love, them young kids in straight away to play 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of football.
It makes sense in the structural sense, because you mentioned those players like your Barretts, your Tyroos, your Shoal Makers that they've got there, all kind of, they're sort of converging on that not quite key position. And then you just sort of bring someone in that's kind of ready to go, can just kind of sit there, gives you a little bit of time to get Max King back in the team as well. I actually quite like it, Pommy. I like this. But does it, like, where do you see their list? Like, where do you see the Saints overall? Do you see them as a team that can bring someone like this in and then they've got enough talent around that to kind of push? Or do you think they sort of should be doing everything that they possibly can to bring in as much talent as they can?
Well, using my Carlton internal knowledge, there is huge rumours that Liam is fuming he didn't get picked up by Carlton. So I think that element means he's hungry. So, like, he's that perfect age, I think, as well, for a second chance. But I think one thing I've noticed for him in the VFL, he's been captain of our VFL. He keeps banging him in. I don't think he's one of them people that needs lessons. I think he needs opportunity, and I think he would grab it by both hands. And I think the way they play, I agree with you. I think his leading patterns, he needs the ball kicked on him. I think one of the best places for him to go. My issue with Saints is I think they do move the ball pretty well. I just don't think they have the natural zest. And I think Harry Mackay would kick 50, 60 goals for Saints.
Oh, he'd be perfect.
But so I think Liam has got a great pair of hands. He stays deep. You kick it on his head, he's going to take marks. And I think that helps them not have to send a lamb to slaughter. We saw when Caminiti played full forward against Carlton with Wheatering. Wheatering ate him, bless him. But I think McMahon has the physicality to handle a full fullback in the AFL.
I feel like Caminiti playing as a full forward, it's like the equivalent in soccer of like running a false nine.
Yeah.
It's just the ultimate decoy.
Yeah, so I feel like that's one thing. I agree with Cracker. I look at their team and I think he's incredible. Like, that's the one thing, if I was a Saints fan, I want Max King fit now. And I can't have that. And is it worth the risk bringing him back early? If I've got someone who can play it, I think that I just got a feeling if I was Sauce, that is a Sauce thing to do. Open up 4, take Liam McMahon when all the rumours are Essendon are going to take him.
I like it.
I absolutely 23. Like it. Cheers, Tom. I knew he was 24, 23. He was around that age.
So he's not even that much older than May or who was the other one we're talking about? Mason.
Mason, yeah. And he's proven, like, to be fair, you can't argue with the goals he's kicked. Like, the guy he's done it for a rubbish VFL side as well. Like, we're bad. So I think give him a chance.
Where would you rate? So say we're putting the key position forwards up against each other here. May, Mason, McMahon. 3 M's.
Yeah, Triple M.
Triple M, like the Collingwood forward line. Yeah, where would you, if you're a recruiter right now, who would you take? I know that's not the question.
If it was to play the round next week, so to play now, Liam McMahon, 1,000%. But I think McMahon, that is his ceiling. What you see now is his. Yeah. I think he's improved so much from his draft year. He's hit the ceiling. I do think May and Mason have a lot more growth in them. I think Liam is already where he is. I think he's going to be a 6 out of 10, third best forward on your list in 3 years' time. But if I'm looking for a stopgap, I'd trust Liam lining up next week over all the others.
You've put up a pretty compelling argument here, Pommy. Now let's watch the Saints just take like a small forward or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what? as well, people out there reckon I hate Liam McMahon because I always say I don't want him at Carlton, but clip that, proper pepped him up. And talking about that, we've got my team and Jesus. Carlton, what do we need? We need a lot. We need a lot. A lot. Braden mentions Jaden, who was a mid-season draftee a while ago at Essendon, but he's probably similar build to Liam, someone that is ready now. But Dylan, Carlton, what do we need? What do you think my Blues need, apart from a miracle?
You need a lot. You definitely need a halfback distributor, but I don't think you're going to get that here. You're not going to get the player that you need to be able to distribute the ball. You're going to have to go to the national draft for that. But then I look at your picks for 2025, and that doesn't look exactly super promising either. I know there's been a lot of chat this week. I do feel like there is some merit in Carlton almost like ripping up the blueprint a little bit, like actually trading somebody away, looking at like the option of trading a Tom de Koning away, I don't really like that, to be honest. I like maybe a Mackay getting put on the trade table, trying to get something for him, and then sort of reinvesting that back in the squad to help out your ball movement a little bit. As far as for the mid-season draft, I think you've got to target that small forward position. You just don't really have anyone that's kind of standing up. And even from a system point of view, from a pure goal scoring point of view, I feel like you need something in that area. So it sort of comes down to 2, 3, 4 players here that are the options. Like for me, the highest talent option is Sam Toner, and he gives you something a little bit different because he gives you something aerial as well. Means that you probably don't have to play that third tall down there like a Lewis Young type. You can probably play Mackay, Curnow, and then kind of go all small, and you can use Sam Toner as a marking option. Now, Sam Toner is not really going to be able to come in, I don't feel, and help Carlton from the get-go. I feel like he's not one of those sort of like mature ready players. He's 19, 20 years of age, something in that sort of area. He's quite lean. He's quite rangy. I feel like he does need to put on some muscle, a little bit of extra strength. When he kind of goes up to that VFL level and he's up against bigger bodies, he does struggle a little bit, but he's got the most raw talent of probably anyone that we're actually talking about in this draft. The other options, and probably if you wanted somebody a little bit more ready-made and is a little bit more of a higher forward kind of system player, you're looking at like a Ewan McKinley, who we've mentioned. He's got a lot of pace, good endurance. He can kind of be that extra sort of stoppage player, get up to contest and sort of like that worker bee really that just does a lot of the functions in the team. And then there's Jacob Newton as well, who was really good last year in the national champs in his draft year. Again, just fresh out of the draft, but his first probably month at SANFL level was really good. He kicked multiple goals in all games. He's more of your deep, small forward sort of striker type player that can kind of pounce on the ball. But there's options there for Carlton, and I think they have to target the small forward position.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think a dream would be all the other clubs we've talked about have an aneurysm and we get McCarthy in. I think he'd be the dream for Carlton. He's quick. He's elite by foot, and he finds the ball. I think we are hoping, but I'm with you. Toner for me, I loved him in the draft, and I'm shocked no one picked him because I thought he was right up there. Newton, though, the more I look at Newton, the more he screams a Carlton player because he's physically strong, he's quick. He linked up so well. If you go back and watch his junior highlights, his link-up play with Ben Camporelli is another level. Ben Camporelli had him on speed dial. So I think Carlton might look at that. And we do know Carlton like to link these players together. I'm with you on Toner. I do feel, though, you look at our draft hand, the Blues have got to treat this as whoever we select, we rank better than 30th in this draft class. Carlton have got to ideally fabricate a second-round player. I feel like there's the most pressure on the Blues, and it's a shame that we're talking a small forward because this is a position, if the Blues are honest, they should have nailed 6 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like they've had so many bites at the cherry with different kind of players. Do you feel, though, with Newton, I do like him, and he's one of those guys. I reckon if he comes in and plays for Carlton tomorrow, you get more output out of him than Toner. I actually do agree with you on that one. But I do, at the same time, should Carlton be playing the long game or playing the short game with this one? Because I feel like in a best world scenario, Sam Tone is the one that comes out and can do more for you and is a more unique player. Like, it's more difficult to find that 184 centimeter guy like Toner that can mark the ball as well. Is just a wiry, different sort of a build, and I could see Sam Toner down the track even being a bit of a Will Day-esque midfielder if he can sort of build that tank, build that running ability as well. But he just looks such an athlete, the way that he glides across the field, creates space inside forward 50. I'm a massive fan. I feel like it would be a bit of a stuff up if Toner was available and they didn't take him.
I agree. Look, I am a big Toner fan. I'm a big Toner fan. My thing with Carlton is I feel like we will always take the 6 out of 10 guarantee over the 10 out of 10 guarantee, right? The 10 out of 10 speculative. And I think when you go safe, you usually get bitten in the arse when you haven't taken a risk. So I think Sam Toner, to me, incredible defensively, way better than Jacob Newton. And Carlton have an obsession with small forwards defending as well. So I think he makes sense because worst case, he's going to be Fogarty 2.0. He's going to play for 6-7 years. Part of me, though, just thinks I'd love to have Nick Austin's job and say, Newton's a goal-kicking machine. We're desperate for a goal-kicking small forward. Yeah, defensively, he sometimes gives up. This guy, though, could be the pick of the draft. And he could also be egg on our faces, but take the chance. And I feel like it's an exciting pick, Newton. Newton's the exciting pick. Toner's the guarantee.
Oh, really?
I think Toner's a guarantee. Worst case.
I had it the other way there for me. I feel like Newton is the safe pick and Toner is the speculation due to the fact that his current output is probably less than Newton's. And I feel like Newton's got a body that's sort of ready to play AFL. Like for me, he's got like a body that's ready to play AFL. He's more of that sort of stockier, rotund kind of build, where Toner's sort of this, like, he's skinny, so he sort of gets like bumped off the ball a little bit at times. But because of the extra size, the extra height that he's got, the extra reach to be able to sort of, like, some of the stuff that he does when he's in close and he can sort of tap the ball to his advantage, use his speed to sort of get on the end of it. I just think this, for me, with Sam Toner, like, there's just so much. Like, you could be getting like a Will Day.
I agree. I love him. I just think that he's a guarantee. He's a development guarantee, where Jacob Newton reminds me of why I think Carlton always have shit small forwards. We went and got Jared Pickett, and God bless Pickett. He had such a ceiling. The boy couldn't stop eating. Struggled with his weight, never got fit. And I feel like that is what Carlton in an ideal world need. And this guy is averaging over 2 goals in Sandford. Yeah. He's a goal-kicking machine. I just feel we've got so many safe small forwards. Take the chance. Take the chance on the guy that thinks defense is for cowards.
So what's the question for you then? So you want Newton. What do you think they'll do?
Look, I'm happy with both. I think we'll go Toner, and I've loved Toner longer than Newton. It's just the Carlton angry Pom wants them to take a risk, because I feel like Jagger was the safe pick last year. I think Sid Draper was the risk. And I feel like Carlton are in a situation where we've taken the same type of boring midfielder because we don't want to have another draft bust. I feel like now's the time to get yourself out of the mess. Go exciting.
Yeah. If there's one time that you can go exciting, it's the mid-season draft, right? Because usually the jeopardy's not that bad. You're not passing up a future Harley Reid.
Yeah, look, worst case scenario, chances are 2026 we're delisting him.
Yeah, I mean, that, like, on odds, that's true.
Yeah. So like, I think both are great picks. Love Sam Turner, more well-rounded than Jacob Newton. But I think if I was looking at Carlton's list now, our small forwards are goal shy, and the entries are so bad. You need to do something X factor to keep goals. And unfortunately, Eddie Betts has refused to come out of retirement. So Carlton need someone who can make something. I'd say, I love Toner, but I'd say at the minute, Jacob Newton has proved in men's football, he can do the unthinkable. So take the risk.
Can we make an argument here for Ewan McKinley, SA boy?
We could do 100%. We definitely could do. I think he's in between both, though, isn't he? I'd say like he would be not as high ceiling as the others, more physical. He genuinely feels to me when I look at Ewan, he strikes me as pressure-based forward as well. Where I feel like Carlton have a plethora of pressure-based forwards. We haven't got enough guys who have a shot at the posts.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you want that a little bit more goal sense type player. Because I feel like he does have that a little bit, McKinley, but I do see him, as more of that higher forward that can kind of like, he's got running ability, like more endurance than the other two, can get up to stoppage and sort of like work through the chains a little bit more. But then when you get him, the closer you get to goal, he's probably the weakest.
Yeah. And I feel that's probably how I describe all of my small forwards. Like, they can tackle, they can pressure, but the problem is we're hoping Fogarty has a game like he did last week, as opposed to a game 4 weeks ago where he had 0 shots at goal, 6 tackles inside 50. Like, Pickett for me, like Liam says, obviously a long-suffering Carlton fan. Pickett is that pick that if you could wish someone went right, now he's him. You wished he was right. Because it's a massive hole. And I think playing small forward for Carlton, I always say this, Charlie Cameron would be rubbish for Carlton. Because the way we enter the ball, you've got to be X factor. I feel like Jacob Newton is the most spectacular out of the three, who probably has a chance with the way we move the ball.
I like it, Pommy. You've compelled me.
Hey, you watch us take Archer May when everyone forgets about him, and Pom there going, why have we got another forward? Another key.
That. I think I'd still like. I have to still go with my boy Sam Toner though.
No, I agree, and I think if he's there, you'd be an idiot. I'd love Massimo. Rasso is the ultimate X Factor pick. I think he would have nominated if because I think Carlton would be guaranteed to get him at 6, 5, 6. So I think he would have nominated early and we would have started the fanfare. But the Doggies, they're a peculiar one. They've left this pick open. Interesting selections next year as well. They've got, I think 12 and 30 is a very good place for a team like the Dogs to be. Next year, they've got, you're getting 2 good bites of the cherry. They left their spot open from the preseason and they turned down what? Brew, Crossley. So you can probably rule them out. They're probably in a wonderful position, though, that they have allocated a pick here, but they're probably going to take the best player we've talked about that isn't taken.
100%. I feel like the Dogs are just... here's a question to you, Pommy. Is there a more talented list in the AFL? And I mean that from not in the sense that like they should be winning a premiership in 2025, but just young players coming through everywhere that feel like they could play anywhere. So much versatility, so modular with players like Richards and Fraser and Davidson and all these sorts. O'Donnell at halfback. There's just talent everywhere. They shouldn't even get a pick in this draft. It's unfair.
Mate, what they've done with their injuries at the start of the year and then losing Darcy and then somehow still finding ways to win, they worry me, the Doggies, because there's always a team in the last 8 rounds that get a little bit of fitness together. Everything comes. I feel when Darcy comes back into this team, they might hit their straps and be an annoyingly good team.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably an argument that they already are, right?
They'll suddenly be better. Imagine a full fit Darcy.
Yeah, I know. It's such a one would as well, just to be able to basically. He's probably the one forward in the competition that you can just sit it on his head. He was playing like Michael Jordan before he got injured. So some of that footy that he was playing in the first couple of weeks of the season, I've never seen anything like it. I think he's such a weapon. And then given everything that they've got behind him as well, like in the back half of the ground, there's one area that looks a little bit thin to me with them. And we talked about it with Carlton, but it is probably that like halfback distributor, still running players. Like if you take out Bailey Dale, who's kind of their A grader, then you're starting to those smaller defenders. You're looking at players like Lockie Bramble, who's the other one? Oscar Baker, these types of players who are probably on the precipice of being kind of VFL players. They make a lot of mistakes. They're not really good in the big moments. And Western Bulldogs this season have probably been exposed by those players a couple of times this season where they have been caught up in the big moments where they really need to win the game. And those kind of players just make more mistakes. So if there was a ready-made option across the halfback, I think they'd look at that. Like someone like a Selwood, I think that would be a consideration for them. Just gives them something a little bit different, can play on smalls, probably can play for them like as more of a lockdown that can distribute as well, can get up the ground, has a bit more athleticism than the likes of Baker and Bramble. I mean, they'd love to take McCarthy, obviously. Like I think he would be their first pick as well. Dream. Yeah, he'd be the absolute dream for them. Given the fact that they're not going to see Cody Waitman for a while, you could probably mount an argument that they would go for one of these small forwards. I know that they've interviewed McKinley as one of those players just to give them something in the small forward brigade a little bit. West has probably stepped up this season unexpectedly and played, to a higher level than he has in the past. I think Vandermeer is playing some decent stuff as well. So they probably don't actually need anything. Could you see the Dogs actually going down the path of taking a project ruck as well? Like you've got players like, for me, Zach Harding and Alex Van Wyck are probably the two highest pedigree rucks in this that project for me for the future. They've really only got Tim English and then sort of, I don't know, they've kind of just got a couple of backup rucks in there. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that they have behind him. But I feel like that's an avenue they could go down.
No, I agree. I mean, obviously, someone in the chat asking, will they move Ugo Hagen? There's no talk. I was thinking that because I did think maybe if they put Ugo Hagen on the inactive list and had an extra pick, we talked about him off camera. Burmeister that's the type of player the Dogs could turn into a superstar. And they've got this list to rest on him. 2-3 years. Don't want to see you. Don't want to see you. You learn your craft. You'll learn off English. You've got the help here, Lobs pinch hit in the ruck. You've got these good guys to train off. I genuinely think they'll probably just go best available. I mean, one name I wanted to throw out, I know they've interviewed Selwood. They've interviewed Ewan. I know Selwood got a lot of hype from the Dogs early. But I was watching the Werribee the other week, just gone at Sandy, and Zach Banch screams Doggy's player.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
He just looks like that guy that works hard. When he hasn't got the ball, he's hauling ass. He's chasing them. When he's in close, he's looking to give it off. You can see he does the team thing first, like all Werribee players. He looks to play people in. There's no selfishness. And that's what I think is the beautiful thing about the Dogs and how good they've been, is that there is no ego. Even in Bontempelli, they all play for each other. They're team first. I'll handball to you before shooting a 50-50.
Yeah.
And he just looks like that type of ready-made player that would slot in their forward line and work hard both ways. but also kick goals for them. He just screams that annoying Dogs player that we'll take, and suddenly he kicks 20 goals in a year, and we're like, why don't we take him?
Well, it's like Sam Davidson. I mean, like they take him with pick 51 or something in the draft, and he was like older, so he's like 23 years of age, but he looks ridiculous this season. And I didn't have a lot of intel on him, given that he was playing in the VFL, but just so much athleticism. Like, what an absolute steal they've been able to get there. But I think you're right. I think that stacks up as that type of player that they could go for. Like McKinley, Banch and McKinley probably look to me as similar type players, like those small forwards that sort of get up and work. If you look at what Western Bulldogs have sort of done this season as well, like they tried Dolan at the beginning of the season, probably in that role that we're talking about where a McKinley or a Banch would play. They've sort of subsequently got dropped, just haven't been able to sort of keep up with the demands of footy in their first year. They've probably gone to someone like McNeil, who's, again, he's in that sort of like borderline best 23. Is he a VFL player? So it definitely stacks up. I've still got this thing in the back of my mind where they had a look at Crosley as like a backup or a different sort of ruckman if they needed it to be there alongside Tim English. And like, do they actually look at one of these? Because I feel like Crosley's that type of ruckman where he's a big body, he's big and strong, and he can sort of like protect the space and then sort of get the ball. He can really, compared to a Tim English, who's more of an athletic outside sort of a ruckman, Crosley's that one that's sort of like a bigger body and can kind of protect the space and give it to the likes of Bontempelli and Richards and these types of players a little bit easier. Do they go after someone in that mold as a developing ruckman? Like that's kind of what I was saying off the top. Like there's an Alex Van Wyk playing currently in the SANFL. He's 203 centimeters. He's young, only 20 years of age, and he's currently injured. But I think he's a really, like, as an upside pick, he'd be awesome, as would Zach Harding. I feel like they'd be more likely, if they went ruck, more than a Burmeister type, they'd go for that kind of bigger body type as a project option. But it's tough. I like the small forward avenue as well. I think that could go, for me, that could go either way.
I feel like they're in like a great position. Aren't they? Yeah. Really? Like, to be honest, the Dogs, like, I don't think they can really mess this pick up. But I do agree. I think, like, to answer the people in the chat, I'm surprised they haven't crossed the avenue with Ugle-Hagan. Obviously, there'll be some complexity with why he's off. But, like, this would be something, to go to your point, you'd maybe be pushing it if you just wanted to bring in a backup for a ruck, because that is one of them areas that I don't wish it on them, and I hope it doesn't. But if they do get a ruck injury, that's going to be harder to cover than anything, isn't it? If English went down, heaven forbid now, till the end of the year, that would be that's suddenly when you start to think, can you cover this?
Exactly. Like I'm looking at their list. Like I don't know who, if English gets injured, I don't really know who they play. Like they'd probably have to, given that Darcy's out currently, because he's the one that could naturally sort of step in and do it a little bit. Would you play like a Rory Lobb, someone like that? Maybe a Jordan Croft, but these players are more key forwards first or key defenders first that then can come into the ruck. So it's a bit odd. Maybe a Karmas even could play a little bit of ruck with it.
Yeah, it'd be lob them type of players, them like pinch hit guys who now are doing it full time.
Yeah, they've got Lachlan Smith on their list. I don't know if he's rookie or main list, but I haven't heard too much about him. No, he is main list. So 203 centimeter ruck as well, but only 19.
Yeah, flag charge. The last thing you'd want, with all due respect for him, is like him. I don't think he's far away, because ironically, when I was watching for McCartin, I caught him in the Footscray game there, and dominant in the ruck against Geelong. He was dominant against them, which impressed me. But it would be a big risk. Do you know what I mean? I agree here with the gentleman here. He's the backup, but would you risk him day one?
Yeah, exactly. Like you wouldn't want to be, I guess in some ways it comes down to the question of where Western Bulldogs think they're at this season. Like, do they think that they can actually have a bit of a pop at the flag? They've done it before from outside the top four a couple of times and made it to the grand final. If they sort of think they can do that again, maybe with this pick, like we're looking at kind of the small forward position, like maybe they do go for like a ready-made type player. Maybe they can do something with Jamara as well. I think it's tomorrow, isn't it, that we find out with the final list lodgements. Maybe they can do something with Jamara and they take one of those small forwards and then they actually go for like a ready-made ruck player as well. Like somebody, Van Wyck's probably, only 20 years of age, so you probably wouldn't want to put it on somebody like him, but you've got, someone like is it Lachlan Blackiston from the Waffle?
Yeah.
26-year-old ruck as well. Like they could go down that path just to protect themselves a little bit.
No, I agree with you. I could see the benefit. Like as good as Lachlan Smith has been in the VFL, I would be allergic to a 19-year-old. Let's just say, heaven forbid English goes down next week, of him doing it for 9, 10, 11 weeks. It would make sense to even have one of the guys on the 6-month contract just to cover it. If you do open up a spot, if Crossley agrees to like a 6-month deal or a 12-month, just tide you over, because it would be a miss. But I do think pick 6, they'll just go best player that's there. And
I for me, the most likely is that McKinley type, or you mentioned Banch as well. Like somebody like that's probably the most plausible.
And the most active team, and this is a team that genuinely you feel sorry for them, but they have got to get literally all 4 of these probably play. Like Essendon, horrifically, talk about injury list, but they lost Sam Draper, Tom Edwards, Brian, and Hayes all within like a 4-week spurt. And the AFL have given them permission to play them the next day as well. Like they are definitely going for players now, aren't they, Dylan?
Did you see that Ben Mackay's now out as well?
Yeah, is it all season though, or is it?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, they've lost him for a short time. I think potentially Reed's out for a short amount of time as well. He could be available. I'm not too sure on that, but yeah, it's been a bit of a crisis for them. That's the question is here though, given that they've got 4 picks in this mid-season draft, it's not so much, they'll definitely take players that can come in and play right away, but how many will they take? And then in what position will they take those ready-made players versus talented players? Like with pick 7, do they take more of a talent selection? Just someone that they can kind of get in, because they're also rebuilding a little bit on the run, Essendon. They're trying to get lots of, young talented players. I think we have to consider when looking at the picks that they could make that they've had Isaac Kako come through as an NGA small forward. They've got Adam Swade, Hussein El Ashkar coming through this year in the draft as well. So they're that probably rules them out of any playing for small forwards here, just given what's going to be coming onto their list at the end of the year. They don't want to get stuck with too many in the same position. For me, this pick, given what other clubs are going to be looking to do, I'm thinking they might go Charlie McCartan. Pommy, what do you think?
Won't be surprised, because like I said, that was how I saw Lachlan Smith. I watched that. That was one of my scouting games, watching Geelong's youth play, and McCartan stood out, ready-made player. I feel like they're in a great position as well, because I agree with the Essendon fans. I don't think they'll go baby ruck. I think they'll go at a grown, mature ruckman to help Todd Goldstein. They've invested in that area. So I think that means they're in a privileged position that I reckon Crossley, if he's him, or they were linked with some other younger players as well in that ruck, that mid-age ruck, I feel like he's going to be there at pick 15. So I feel like they've got 7, 11 and 14, really. No one's looking for a ruck. So they're in a privileged position that they can wait on that one. I agree. I think McCartan is ready now. It takes pressure off. I'm surprised he wasn't picked up last year when there was a lot of talk that he was going to play. But he looks AFL ready, doesn't he? He's a big body.
Yeah.
He's strong. He reads the play well. He's been in the system a long time as well. You wouldn't shit yourself seeing him playing round 12, would you?
Well, that's the thing. And all of the chat, like even Brad Scott mentioning it on the on the live the other night, saying that pretty much their strategy's actually just changed given the fact that they've had more injuries on the night. So he looks the most suited just to be able to come in. He's 194 centimeters, I think. So he's going to be able to play those like similar type roles to what someone like a Ben Mackay could do, what a Hayes was doing when he was in there. Again, it's not probably blowing you away as a pick if you're an Essendon fan, because they are kind of looking to the future. But given how it plays out, like you mentioned there, they're going to be able to get the ruck with that last pick. So I feel McCartan's probably the best example, where you've got teams like Collingwood and North down a little bit further who might be sniffing around someone like a Charlie McCartan. You might have to take him here and not risk that he's gone by 11. And then you're really starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel looking for a ready-made key position player.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because like their rucks, they've been heavily linked with Crossley and Ollie Eastland in WA. And they've put a lot of time. So you'd imagine we can bank them at 15. Like you can bank them.
Pommy, I actually the one for me that I think they might take is that Lachlan Blackiston.
Yeah.
I think
another night. Well, I mean, to be fair, we don't know much about Matt Roses. So
true.
I've got a feeling he's a little bit more cunning than his predecessor. We know Dodoro used to pretty much tell us what he was taking. I feel like Matt keeps his cards to his chest, but I do like this one here by our boy Braden. Tomlinson as well would be one of them players, because there was a point in time he was locked to your boys. Yep. Like it was the worst kept secret ever. It was like North have promised him first cab off the rank if there's an injury. Tomlinson could be like that backup as well, couldn't they? He could be that backup. So say if like Sam Toner is here, let's just say Sam Toner slides, I wouldn't be shocked for them to go, if we lose McCartin, Tomlinson's there at 11.
True. And to throw another name in the hat there, worst case scenario, you've also got like a Nathan Kruger, who again, it's not exactly super exciting if you come away with Nathan Kruger, but if you like, we're also talking about Charlie McCartan. He's a mid-20s key position defender that plays in the VFL. It's not like we're talking about absolute superstars right now. I think McCartan would be the pick of those three players, and maybe that's something just mysterious because he hasn't actually played AFL and you haven't actually seen it. So you kind of, this feels like there's still some upside there, but they've still got a couple of those backup options, right? Like Tomlinson, you got Kruger. You could have a throw at the stumps with somebody else that's up. Maybe, but the other player that I had linked to Essendon as a bit of a project player, a high upside player, was Gus Papal from the Quarter Cannons, like a hybrid 193 centimeter running defender. Like I absolutely love the way that he plays. He's been getting some big numbers lately, really being able to find the footy. His intercept work is really strong and just looks, again, like one of those guys coming out of the defense. Looks like a real nightmare for forwards to have to play on him just because of his athleticism. Really sort of like drives his legs out of the back 50. So he's one for me that I could see Essendon taking him with either that pick 7 or 11. But you'd think if McCartan's on the board, they'd probably go it. What do you reckon, Pommy?
I think he's the most natural one. I get the feeling that Tomlinson, although he's a backup, I don't think he'd be. I think he's someone that if you're Rosa, 14 and 15 is there. So by process of elimination, 7 and 11 should be best dressed. And like I like El Nor. I don't think he's nominated as of yet, but he would be, to go with your Papal thing. He's someone who's just never been drafted, is El Nor, and he's been there. I remember him at Bullants. So impressive. And I could see him playing. We're starting to see smaller key position players, aren't we? He's got all them facets that hide the lack of height. He attacks the ball at its highest point. He backs himself in.
And I think Papal and probably Rod Ali is another one in that same mold as well. That's a bit of a running defender. To answer Braden's question there, like, can they play key? I think they can. I think Papel's probably not physically developed enough to do it now would be the problem. So if you're bringing him in for Essendon, he can't, like, he's not going and playing on Charlie Curnow in his, who have they got? They've got the Lions. Like, he's not going to be going and lining up on Hipwood. Let's put it that way. Like, he could probably go with him from a running point of view. Like he'd probably have the running capabilities to go with him, but he wouldn't be able to physically keep up with him.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie McCartan's got legacy game against Carlton's keys. That is the type of player, trust me, as a Carlton fan, I look at the key forward matchup, and when my brain goes, how many goals? There's no way he stops him. That's when the defender stops him. So I can guarantee I'll look, when we play them in 2 weeks' time, Curnow, McCartan, I'll be like, Curnow, kill him. And watch a 0-3 game. Can't wait.
So what are we saying here, Pommy? 7, 11, 14, 15. I'd be saying
McCartan,
7. McCartan, for me, McCartan, Papple, another player just to throw in the hat here that they've been linked to is Ryan Ayres.
Yeah.
I think he's at Werribee, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, 21-year-old, 198 centimetre key defender as well. Again, probably would be a bit of an upside pick as well. I'd say he's a chance with pick 14, and then I'd go with that ready-made ruck at 15, or they go with like a Tomlinson or a Kruger at 14 into the ruck at 15.
Yeah, I think they go sensible here. I think I agree with you. I think 7, they just get the key defender off the board. Whoever that is, whoever they nominate is the best. We're guessing McCartan. Get him off the board. I think 11 is that intriguing position for them. Do they get exciting here? I could really see them throwing the playing the game, and I could see Rod Ali. I know he was linked with Pies, and Pies are frantically trying to open that second list spot. I could see Essendon being dickheads and going, let's get the young player in. Let's lean on him. Because I think 14 and 15, they cover all list spots because no one else will have picks to get in their way. I think they're in a privileged position that as long as they use their first pick to cover the major hole, a rookie's guaranteed no one else wants them. 11 and 14, you can play around a bit, have a bit of fun with it.
For sure. They're probably, they're the luckiest team in the sense that they can pretty much speculate. It's I suppose it's just comes down to how much they value the 2025 season, because the more you want to speculate on the younger, higher upside guys like Ali and Papau, probably the more it's going to hurt you in the short term this season. So, like if I was Essendon, I'd be fine to throw away this season anyway. All that does is make your draft hand slightly better at the end of the season, which is already awesome. Like you can see there, picks 8 and 9 on the board, plus you've got your academy players as well. So they're stacked really in the next couple of seasons with their NGA picks, as well as the drafting that they've done around Kako last year and stuff. So they're sweet.
And then the Suns. Suns have got some intriguing picks, and these, I'm going to make a bold call, right? They've got the 2 spots, Charlie, Ballard, Himmelberg. I think they pass one anyway. I genuinely think they only take one here. But they have been all over Caleb Lewis. Like, that is all over the press. And incidentally, massive reports from Cal Toomey today that Oscar Adams is seen as their backup. Feels like they're looking at a big guy.
Yeah, for sure. You look at, one of the ones on their long-term injury list is Charlie Ballard, right? I feel like they just want someone to come in and potentially, and like this is if they take the 2 picks, I suppose like Caleb Lewis is probably more of an upside pick, but they're such a hard one to judge, the Suns, just because of how much talent they already have coming through the door. Like the list is already stacked. Plus you look to the draft in 2025, you've got the 3 big guns at the top of that draft, Hewland, Patterson, Adensel already coming through. They've even potentially got a couple more later in that draft as well. So they've got plenty of stuff to do there. Lewis is the one they keep getting linked to. I'm with you, Pommy. Like I could sort of see them just bringing in, like if a McCartan was on the board right here, do you think the Gold Coast Suns would go for somebody like that to come in and sort of play that Charlie Ballard role, just a real short-term fix, get him in, sort of solidifies their backline a little bit more. They've got a lot of those attacking types there with like Mac Andrew. This one would just give them that defensive stability for this season. Now that they're going to be like, it's looking pretty certain that they're going to be in finals, pushing for potentially a maiden premiership.
Yeah, you know what worries me when I heard the Caleb link is I look at their list and I think they've got a lot of terrific young keys.
100%. It makes no sense, right?
Yeah, and Caleb was a backman, but he's doing all his best work in the forward line. So it was almost like, are they looking at it and saying, no, he's a defender, we're going to convert him back? Or is there something, or do they genuinely want to maybe mirror Adelaide, the 3-12 system? All of their 12s are mobile. Ethan Reid ruck forward. Like, is that what they're looking at? That kind of like modern day system that seems to be flirting with. It's an interesting one because I agree with you. If McCartan's there, you would say, well, it's a like for like replacement for Ballard. He's ready now. And we'll bring him in because you'd imagine they've got they've got White. They've got White in their NGA who could nominate them or Melbourne. But you'd think you'd probably go Gold Coast, wouldn't you? Like they're a great opposition to play for, great proposition. So you'd imagine with the picks they've got, they could sort out, no disrespect to these mid-season draftees, but better caliber talent. So I would assume if you're going to take a key here, you're taking one as a stopgap, like a McCartan.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, you've already got, like, their forward line is already sort of too young in Ethan Reid, Jed Walter as well. So you don't really want to bring another Caleb Lewis in who's like 2021, unless they do, like you said, unless they do see him as that kind of ready-made key defender. That would still seem a little bit strange to me. And then with everything they have in the academy, of course, like they've got guys to pick there. Last year in the draft also, they took a Giants academy player later on in the draft who's a key defender as well. His name escapes me. Cooper Bell?
Yeah.
I want to say. Yeah, key position defender there. So like they've taken a couple of those types as well. It's just they're just a tricky one to read. I mean, I feel like probably what they're doing is they're just saying, well, we've got a pick. We like him. We think he marks the ball really cleanly. We're just going to develop him in the VFL. And I guess they go for Lewis if he's there based on the reports.
Do you know left field who I before there was any links, I always write little things that I did. Adrian Cole, do you remember the St Kilda guy that they didn't like?
Yeah.
He screamed Gold Coast player to me. You know, that if they wanted a developing player, because he's got all them facets that I think aren't natural to what they've got on their list. Incredible one-on-one defender. That's what he likes doing. It kind of complements all that sex appeal they've got down the back because they're all ball users, exciting players, but every great slingshot team has that stodgy, ugly defender that just takes out the main guy so the rest can play. He struck me as that kind of developed player that I'd like if I was Gold Coast.
It's not a bad shout. I feel like with Adrian Cole, he's that player where now, like teams these days, like they pretty much want everyone in the back six to kick the ball pretty well. Like it's hard to carry anyone that can't use the ball. Like back, to use a soccer analogy again, it's like the goalkeeper back in the day, right? Didn't really pass the ball. Now all the goalkeepers are passing the ball. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of what AFL's done as well. Like your fullback actually has to use the ball pretty well. And it's unfortunate. He's just so shaky on the ball. Like you really do think he's one of those players that you really do think is going to turn the ball over every time he's got it in his hands. And it makes him such a press trigger. I think he's a similar player, Cole, in the AFL currently is Charlie Comben. Because I feel the exact same way about Charlie Comben at North Melbourne. Amazing interceptor. And maybe that's what Cole doesn't quite have. He's got the lockdown ability, not the interceptability. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if you can, in 2025, I don't know if you can carry a guy like Cole who can't kick the footy. But do you actually see Gold Coast going for a player like Cole, or was that just a shout?
No, it was just one of them options that like struck me when I first was drawing up the list requirements. I was like, I thought it was a big defender.
Yeah.
Just because obviously Ballard was injured. So I was like, if they pick, it's going to be a big defender. And at the time of me writing that down, round 3, I was like, I think Gold Coast will cover it for now. Do they look long term? And they strike me as the kind of team that would back themselves to work on the ball use. But he's got all them wonderful talents defensively already, which Ballard's not a great user of the football, but he can defend. Is it something that they look at long term that we can maybe teach him to kick? We can give him the ball use.
Yeah.
He's going to be working with some exciting players anyway. Just handball it. He's got all them nice talents.
100%. Just give the ball to Dan Rioli.
Exactly. You know, Burmeister is someone we were talking about off camera. He is definitely someone that has gone, and it's interesting that we talked about them earlier. St Kilda were heavily linked with him in the draft, and it's believed still have got them. Gold Coast are another team that they probably can afford that. Their ruck stocks are pretty strong. Ethan Reid, I think, is a Rowan Marshall type player, ruck forward. Is that something that with their second pick, Gold Coast probably could afford to rest on someone for 3 to 5 years?
Like a Burmeister, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. The issue for me with Burmeister, I feel like AFL clubs these days are less inclined. It's funny because on the one hand, they're obsessed with athleticism. Like that's just an absolute fundamental. But they're less going for those, particularly in the ruck position, like they used to sort of 20 years ago. They don't take those sort of skinnier, non-physical type rucks that just have this sort of ambiguous athleticism to rely on. So then it comes down to like, can they play an alternative position? And he can, like Floyd Burmeister athletically can do everything. Like he can run, he can jump, all of those sorts of things. But he probably hasn't been able to sort of show that necessarily on the football field in any of those other positions other than ruck. He spent a little bit of time forward. I think he's improved his marking a little bit. But yeah, it's almost a question of like, I don't really know what he is. Clubs are now looking, when they look for ruckman, they're looking for those really big, chunky, physical guys that can kind of almost win a one-on-one contest in the ruck, like Tristan Sherry, Lloyd Meek, these types of builds. So I don't see where he fits in there. And then he's kind of almost like just this athletic tall forward. And I'm not sure if he's shown enough in that position to be an option. That's probably where I sit on him.
I feel like, you know, that they've got Kalani White coming through, and that you would. I get the feeling he's going to nominate Gold Coast
really
over Melbourne, and I feel like you won't want too many of them players because I love Kalani, but I feel like Kalani is 10 steps ahead of Burmeister. But at least you know he's going to make it. You know he's going to make it. And he's got a defined role. He's got all them skills already. Floyd kind of still looks like he's working out if he's a footballer, but he's impressive to look at.
100% agree. On Kalani, so what do you see him as positionally?
I get the feeling that he's going to be a very competent ruck forward.
Interesting. I sort of had with Kalani, from what I've seen, I sort of see him. I feel like he could almost be like a Josh Worrell, like an intercepting, like an intercepting defender that can kind of use the footy as well. And I think feel like
his marking's impressive. My only thing is, I've never understood why we don't see dual position defender rucks. Everyone seems to be a ruck forward.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like something as in you can't leave your man. So as a forward, you can kind of vacate the forward line. It is interesting though. Like you could easily just change them over, just make a switch.
Yeah, makes no sense, doesn't it? Because also ruckmen seem to hang behind the ball. Like it's one of the weird things a foreigner to this game doesn't understand, because it just makes sense. A ruckman falls backwards. Yeah.
Or, like look at Darcy Cameron. The amount of times he just sweeps back, takes those big intercept marks. It's kind of a match made in heaven.
It could be an interesting one. And then the final team we talk about. So it's interesting. It is expected, just reading this report here, I will read it out to you word for word, but it is expected that Brisbane, Fremantle, Geelong, Giants, Hawthorn, Melbourne, Richmond, Sydney have all not joined and are not likely, barring injuries from now till the cut-off, to open up a list spot. And Adelaide will analyse, but are expected not to, the Toby Murray ankle. But they will think about it. But they're the only one likely to open that we haven't talked about tonight. So that kind of puts that. But the next team we're looking at, Collingwood, who, after writing this, they did open that pick 13 on this provisional ladder. 2 picks being linked with every key forward so far that we've talked about. So it's obvious that their first selection will be a key forward. Interesting that Archie has got a lot of love recently. I still think that Lepic was telling the truth. I think they go in-house. I think they go VFL.
Really?
Collingwood.
So are you thinking Riley Mason?
Yeah, I genuinely think Collingwood seem to have great success with their VFL development. I'm surprised if May gets there, but I don't think they would turn it down. I think Mason lock him in.
Interesting. Could you see them going for, I mean, you look at the other players in their VFL, Josh Brown, the tall midfielder, someone like that. And then I guess Rod Alley's still part of that as well, isn't he? They could just take him as a project.
I feel like Rod Alley is an incredible project that the only team I could see taking Rod Alley was the team I mentioned earlier, Essendon. I feel like they're in a great position that they've got so many picks. Once you've got your key defender and a backup ruck, I know they've had bad injuries, but they're okay to get through the season. That they can. So them next 2 picks can be a little bit of fun picks.
For me, Rod Ali.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, for me, Rod Ali, I like him. I like him as a project player, but he's one that just looks almost too far away from being ready that clubs won't bother to risk it yet. Yeah. If that makes any sense. Like as much as that sounds stupid because you could get him on the list and sort of train him up, but I feel like they want to see more of him grafting a little bit almost at VFL level for another couple of seasons. Maybe he could look to the national draft at the end of this year, maybe the year after, but I feel like he's just a bit too raw.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like that's a team that has multiple picks in this draft.
Yeah,
would say.
Agree.
Like, I could see Essendon taking him to be dickheads because I get the feeling that they want to play a bit of ball. But like when I look at their keys, I know they've been linked with May, but I just can't see him getting past North Melbourne.
I feel the same. I mean, apparently they actually told him they were the reason that he didn't play Waffle at the weekend because they actually said, like, we'll pick you. So he's basically guaranteed that someone will pick him, but I just feel like it'll be before Collingwood get their pick. So then it does fall back to those guys like Mason. Could you see Collingwood, though, also going in that ready-made sort of territory, like going for someone, if he was to still be on the board, going for like a Michael Selwood as that sort of rebounding defender as well? Just as a bit of backup, if nothing more?
I don't think they would with their first pick. I think Collingwood will take a key their first pick.
Yeah.
And I think it would be hard for them. But I think they're in such a fortunate position that I don't think Essendon will take Mason at this pick. Their first pick. I don't think they will. Dogs definitely will. Carlton don't need a key. Port don't. Saints, I can't see it.
They're the one for me. Saints are the one for me that if, for example, if May was already off the board and had gone to North Melbourne, I feel like there's a chance the Saints could take Mason.
I feel like because they haven't opened that spot up yet, I feel like Saints will open it up when they know who it is. I feel like if it was going to be best available, they would have already done it.
Yes. Yeah, that's where we brought Liam McMahon into the conversation, right?
Yeah, that's why my Pom theory is Saints don't really care. And
yes,
like there's someone in this draft that hasn't interested them enough, and they're just sitting on it now. They're sitting on it, and they might come to the table should something happen. But it'd be interesting because I really do feel like Mason comes there, like comes at the perfect time. I can't see it.
I feel like, again, he works so well for Collingwood as well. Just that, like that worker type key position forward, that really athletic key position forward that gets up and down the ground as well, kind of creates space for the likes of Mychek as well and Jamie Elliott, who are more of their actual goal scorers. Could you see a world where, if he's still on the board, as that sort of Reef McInnes replacement, because they haven't really replaced that yet, they've kind of just got other players to sort of do some functions, like Darcy Cameron's kind of sliding behind the ball and stuff like that. Could they go for a McCartan if he was available?
Teresa, as she always does, asks a great question, and I agree. This would be a problem. Like, if Mason is there at this pick and McCartan, because I agree with Rogue Riot, I think Josh Brown is the second pick, is the pick 13 that they've opened up. This would be an incredible predicament for them. Like McCartan or Mason. Do you do which do you do? Because you would imagine that that's when Essendon do play funny buggers. If McCartan is still there at 9 and you take Mason, they probably take McCartan with their next pick. If you take McCartan to leave Mason, they probably take Mason their next pick. So they are probably stymied with their tall. It is best tall available. I just genuinely think Collingwood are such a well-versed club that Archer is incredible, but I don't think anyone outside of Archer is over Mason. I think they'll just put all their eggs in the Riley basket, pick 9 if Archer hasn't slid there. And I can't see Archer sliding. If North turn him down.
What if it was a Caleb Lewis? If the Gold Coast, again, they've been so linked to him that you'd think they're just going to take him, but he's still available. Is there any world?
I always get the impression what's so good about their list management is that they don't speculate, they know. And
yeah, I agree with you.
Part of me feels like the Archer may, and I have no intel on this, part of me feels that that's kind of like a deflection tactic to force May, if you're in between them, if you're North Melbourne, if you're Gold Coast, if you're Essendon, you take the boy now because and I feel like it's helping them get Mason off into their board.
Yeah, they're kind of making a North Melbourne make that decision at the top end rather than the back end.
So I didn't quite believe it when I saw there's no, like, if Archer slides down to 9 on this virtual draft board, genius.
Yeah.
Might as well just give Pies the flag now, if that's the case. Because they've got the best key, potentially, in the draft at a ridiculous price where everyone else was it. I genuinely think the Pies, they'll end up with Mason and Brown. Genius VFL. VFL play very good Collingwood football. They're ready-made, safe pick. They move on with their lives. Happy days.
Yeah, probably the one that, like, the Brown one's probably the interesting one for me as far as where he fits in to the overall kind of structure, I suppose. You're looking like he's not really going to replace, like, he's sort of in some ways, like Ned Long is a similar player, like that big-bodied midfielder, that guy that can run. So where does he actually, is he just someone that they just keep developing in the VFL, give him a list spot, or do you think he'll actually come in and play straight away?
My boy Labour corrupts. He knows how bad Carlton's development is. Well, if you want to go the other way, Collingwood's development, you've only got to look at like Ned Long, players like that. Like, it wouldn't surprise me that we're having this conversation that Josh Brown is better than the others. But Collingwood will do what they always do. He'll probably play VFL for the rest of the year. When they've wrapped up top 4, round 20, they do a nice little debutant. The guy has 18 touches, kicks a goal. We never see him again. He has a pre-season and suddenly he's best 22 and he's replaced Pendlebury or something. Like, that's just how annoying pies are. Like, genuinely, I think he's got that goal-kicking mid written all over him, and he's about to learn off some excellent players. And call me crazy, I see a little bit of steel side bottom in him.
Really?
I feel like he's going to learn off him.
I've watched a little bit of him. I didn't think he had that. Collingwood, they always seem to draft these players that just are functioning on a higher sort of brain level, the way that they play. Like, they make the right decisions. They're so good with ball in hand. Their kicking looks so controlled. And he seemed a little bit more maybe helter-skelter in a sense with the way that he used the ball. Like, he looks like a really good runner, someone that covers the ground really well. But maybe just didn't have that sort of Collingwood, that the way that they want to play. He just didn't have all the traits to be able to sort of feel that with his ball use and stuff like that. But so I didn't sort of have him in this group. It's hard to kind of put it all together, isn't it? Because you've got those comments that they're going to take someone from their VFL program. But then again, is that just smoke and mirrors as well? And they're kind of just giving that off to other clubs, and there's somebody else they've got their mind on. It's a tough one with them. And it's not as if any of these guys, I feel like the only one that they could actually use right now that would come into the team and help them for 2025 would be McCartan. Where there's a definitive role for him, right? Like, he comes in, he plays that key defensive role and helps out Darcy Moore.
I think, though, the Pies exhibit, we talk about this a lot over on my channel, that ability to imprint learn. So playing with someone with the skill sets that we hope you have, that you learn just through playing with them all the times. So when I look at Josh Brown, I think, right, what's he got in common with Collingwood? Like you say, elite engine, work rate. His kicking can be a little bit crazy. I agree with you. Like, he is that high, low. Then I think he's going to be at training every day with Pendlebury, side bottom, similar skill sets. Eventually, his natural ability to run is always going to be there. But if his kicking improves and decision making by 20%, he probably is still side bottom 2.0. And the same with Riley Mason. I think Riley Mason, he's got all them sexy facets. He's big, takes a grab. But I think sometimes his leading patterns are a bit peculiar. He could impose himself. But then I think, he's learning off McStay, who uses his body well. He's learning off Brody Majocek, who potentially, in my opinion, is the greatest key forward of all time of getting the best out of himself.
He's been incredible. And he comes from this sort of draft, right? He was a rookie draft, I think, back end of a VFL season. Just incredible. And that's like, you look at that Collingwood team, they've just been able to repeatedly do that. So in some ways, you look at a club like Collingwood compared to our clubs like Carlton or North Melbourne, it doesn't seem to matter who we draft, they'll turn out shit. And whoever Collingwood draft, they'll turn out brilliant. It sometimes feels like that.
Yeah, I always joke about Carlton. Like, if we're taking a player, just judge him. That's how he's going to be for the rest of his life as we draft him now, because the chances of him developing are slim. So, but no, I agree with you. I just feel like Collingwood, like you've got Charlie West there. He's developing. I just feel like Riley Mason's that perfect like stopgap, and I think the way they play their small forwards, all you've got to do is be able to catch the ball. The way they play their key forwards, all you got to do is mark it. If you can mark it, half the battle. And he's very strong overhead, and I think he'd learn off some incredible players. But that's the wonderful thing. I think what people forget, Pies do well at developing players. Because unlike us, North Melbourne and Carlton, they don't play them until they need to. They're not the type of club that will have to debut a player just to debut. He plays when he's ready. Yeah,
100%. Like, the amount of psychological trauma that our clubs put on some of their players at times. And like, North Melbourne, you go back years and years, just getting rid of experienced players that were still playing well, like your Boomer Harveys, these types, like what that does to the club as well. And then the pressure that puts on the next group as well. It's crazy. So you make a good point.
Well, I mean, that is all the teams chat, and we've gone well over time as well. But I mean, I've got something exciting. Me and Dylan, and a special guest, Dylan. You want to tell them all who's joining us for the live stream of this event?
Yeah, so live stream, that'll be kicking off at 6:30, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
On Wednesday night. So will we go live at about 6?
Yep, we'll go live 6. We'll shoot the rubbish. We'll have the finalised draft order, the finalised attendances. So we'll take you through all of our top picks.
And we've got Hayden from the Footy Yarn. So we have a Western Australian representative coming along with us to help us with those players like Michael Selwood and May and these types of players. He kind of is on the ground there. So he does awesome work over at the Footy Yarn. Go and check him out. And I'm keen for this, Pommy.
Hey, I can't wait. I always love chatting draft with you, Dylan. It's our first mid-season draft together. We did a lot of content in the draft, though. Just gone. I'm looking forward to this, though, because I will say this is my favourite draft because this is like last chance saloon for players.
Yeah,
so I kind of like it.
Yeah, I feel like with the mid-season too, like I was saying off the top, you're like we're talking about all of this stuff and we're kind of trying to see how players fit into the clubs, like the needs and those kind of things. But you never really know what they're going to do in this one. They could change their decision at the last minute. You're sort of not playing, I suppose, because the stakes are a little bit lower in a mid-season draft. The talent's not quite as high. You can take a few more risks and kind of change your plans on the spot a little bit more.
Oh, 100%. And this is like one of them. I always find this is the most romantic one because a lot of these players, like, this is living your dream. And it's the ultimate story, isn't it? You're probably going to live your dream through someone else's misery. Like an opportunity here to make a career when 6 months ago you were probably resigned to play state league football for the rest of your life. It's a great, exciting time. So hopefully there's always one kid, isn't there, or one adult who becomes a superstar out of this draft. It's finding that one diamond in the rough.
I know. Or in Essendon's case, you find it in like a Massimo D'Ambrosio and then you trade him away anyway. But I mean, they also got Sam Durham. So they've actually been pretty successful in this one. But there's been some massive guns come out of these drafts. Even the rookie draft, if you throw that in as well, like a Mychek, you've got Durham, D'Ambrosio, like I said, John Noble's another one that's done really well. So there is plenty of success stories.
Mate, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting what they do in it because there's so many things. Goss, we covered Saints. If you go back when we finished this, we covered the Saints. I gave a sneaky Pom prediction. You'll like it because it makes your team better and pisses me off. So, yeah, perfect Saints thing. But, I mean, Dylan, make sure if you are watching this on the PommyInOz, make sure you click Dylan's link in the description. Make sure you go and subscribe. Great content. But we will be back 6 o'clock Wednesday and we will see how wrong and how right we were.
100%. Streaming on both channels too. So same to my viewers. Anyone listening, go and subscribe to Pommy. You can check it out on either channel. We'll be going live from 6 o'clock. Keen as, Pom.
I can't wait. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you Wednesday.